Good to see you, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Sam. So you're up in Manchester.
Yeah, just outside of Manchester. Stayed here from my playing days, and it's the nicest place I've lived, so I've stayed here ever since.
Fantastic. And I understand you've got a little boy now.
Yeah, little boy, so keeping him busy, and it's nice to see him obviously during this lockdown period and spending every day with him outside with the wheelbarrow and shovel and doing anything else that I don't normally get time to do.
You're not got horses. 'Cause obviously, you come from a family of strongly associated with horses. With the dad and
Not
your mum.
more. No, too much hard work, horses.
So good to see everybody this morning. I'm sure we'll get a few more joining us as the talk goes on. But anybody that's got any questions for Sam, please do put your questions in the chat box on the right hand side. I think it'd be great to get you on screen to ask Sam direct. So please let me know what your question is, and I'll invite you onto the screen. So maybe if I can start, Sam, just get the ball rolling. Obviously, football has been heavily in the spotlight for various reasons. When will the season restart? How do the various leagues wrap up the season? What's fair, what's not fair? Empty stadiums, etc., etc. What's the biggest challenges you've got in terms of keeping your team fit and motivated and ready to start? Not necessarily at a moment's notice, but when things do start to become a bit clearer about when you can get back to football. How are you approaching this period?
Yeah, it probably comes back to the type of players you've got. The same with any business. If you've got the right personnel or the right people working for you, then it makes life very, very easy. And that was one of my big jobs. I've been at Shrewsbury Town for just over the year, and I've probably turned over, well, the chairman keeps telling me I've turned over 49 players since I've been at the club. And that's basically because I wanted good people underneath, or I wanted good players, good characters. So now when we've got this break, and we can't physically get to any players, how much can you trust them to do what you want them to do? Same with any employee. There's some you can trust and they'll do it 100%. There's others you have to keep an eye on and make sure they're doing it. So we're no different. But generally, we're 80-90% a very good group, and there's different apps. We use a Strava app, so all the players have to go on there, and we give them a physical work they need to do, and they record it on that app. But so the fitness coach can go on, or I can go on and see them and see what work they've done. So that's one way of recording. We also try to make it competitive and interesting. So like on every Tuesday we have teams of 4. Last week I think the first week was a 5K run, record your time also on the app so you can't cheat. 3 players, 1 staff member. The next week was 5-kilometre sprints, different bits and pieces, just to try and keep that competitive element in and keep that going. And now we've actually been off that long that we've gone into like the summer break now, so the players are actually having a couple of weeks of just doing nothing, because I'm not sure when or if this season starts up again. I think the end of this season and the start of next season could be very, very short, a week or 2. So therefore, then players need to use this time to down tools a little bit physically and mentally as well.
Dad, I think you had a question for Sam, didn't you, about getting back to fitness and a lot of the teams saying how they need a long period of time to get back to avoid injuries, etc. Did you want to? I suppose I've asked that for you now. But do you want to come on screen and ask Sam?
Yeah, am I on?
Yeah, you're on, Dad. Yeah.
I was a bit surprised when we're sort of told that if the season starts, in 6 weeks' time, there's still 3 weeks needed for players to get fit. And I'd have thought maybe there was sufficient sort of abilities in a club to ensure the players maintained a certain level of fitness. And I thought that seemed a long time. And
yes and no. I think you ultimately you could do, but if you look at it in a general season, I think the players would probably have between 4 and 6 weeks off, and then have a 6-week build up to the first game of the season. Whereas I think if you're looking at the players now, we've been off since March the 13th, so April, May, they're going to be off for 8, 9, 10 weeks, and then only getting a 3-week build up. As much work as you do, it's different to kicking balls and changing the directions. You can do straight line running obviously by yourself. What people are saying is it's really, in an ideal world, we would like a minimum of 3 weeks to get the players physically ready, because not only are we starting football again, we're going to be playing every 2 or 3 days to cram the season into 56 days. And that includes playoff, semi-final, home and away, and the final. So that means we're going to be playing 10 games in 40 or 45 days. The first one will be okay. The second one, just about. The third one, and if you don't have a good build-up, you'll just see teams not being able to. I wouldn't say they're not going to be able to field a team, but the crank up of injuries is going to be immense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Joe, did you want to come on and ask your question?
Hi Sam.
Hi, yeah. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
I'm kind of in business and psychology, and I've also been an avid football fan since I was about 3.
Okay.
I just wondered. I'm kind of seeing an increase in interest in the kind of the psychological fitness in football. I'm not seeing that it's catching up as much as they use in the individual sports like tennis, and I just wanted an insider's view on that.
Yeah, no, it is. Now, football's a very it's a very different industry, and I think when you get a group of players together, I think it's really hard for psychology to work. It's a very alpha-driven industry where I think like the 20% of your dressing room will run the 80%. If you get that 20% to buy into whatever you want to do, the whole changing room will do it. As a player, I've seen psychologists come in for the team and never actually work, if I'm honest with you. It's too big. It's too, as a players, do you trust them? Not because if I confide in you that, oh, I'm not really very confident at the minute, I don't feel like I'm going to play particularly well. It's a big trusting them, because obviously the manager's brought you in. You go back and tell the manager you're not playing, and et cetera, et cetera. However, when I actually was at Hull City, I've just gone there. I was probably the second or third biggest signing the club had ever made, like financially. And I didn't struggle. I didn't settle at all. I wasn't enjoying it. I was struggling. And I actually went and got my own sports psychologist. And to this day, it was the best thing I ever did. It really, really taught me how to look after myself. Ultimately, it was control the controllables, which at 26, 27, no one had ever told me before. I couldn't influence the media's perception of me. I knew I wasn't playing well. I couldn't influence the senior players of the group, who understandably weren't really engaging in me as a player. But it boiled down to what made me a good player. But I felt I was fit, and I felt I could cross a nice ball and simple things. And it just boiled down to, are you as fit as you can be? Probably not. To make yourself fit, to do you practice crossing every day? No. And that's obviously the huge areas on it. And I think that's why, as an individual sports in tennis and golf, I think that's why they're so important. And I've been a real big advocate of this with players. And I've spoke to players, and I've given out my guy's number to a number of players, because I really think it's a huge area which you can improve. Being a footballer is 80% mentality or psychological, and 20% ability. And that 80% generally gets forgotten, which is a big part of my management style. Is I really try and work with the individual as a person, understand them, have empathy with them. So I try to, I'm not a trained psychologist, but I can use my own experiences to try and help them. But it is the biggest thing, which I think, which certain clubs are doing it. There was a guy, Gary Monk brought a guy in at Swansea, who then came to work with Wales with us. Very, very good. And I think it's a huge area where, not only for the individual, but for the manager, the coaches, that we can all learn and improve as well. Definitely. Like I said, the guy with Wales would sit in all the meetings. He would watch training, had a football background, football understanding, never get involved in tactics. I think you have to be careful, do you wear club tracksuits or club not, but he would say, watch a meeting, say how well the players took it on, the language that we use. If we were going to be up against playing a really good team with Wales, the language for the week's build-up international would be very resilient language in all the meetings and all the training, to get mentally ready that 90 minutes we're going to be having to work really, really hard in this game. But yeah, how you get it in a team perspective, I'm not sure. There's the same guy who I know actually works with a few professional clubs, and he now, like I said, he won't wear a club tracksuit. He never sits in the manager's room or the coach's office. He doesn't associate with them at all. He's there so the players see him as different than someone they can go to, and he ends up talking to them about everything. You know, he's very, very open, and personal problems which affecting their playing style or etc. But it's the biggest area. Is that what you do? along those lines?
Yeah, I work in business, and obviously at the moment we're bringing a lot of like elite athletes and getting their mentality into the leaders in business, and it's just a really interesting time to be in it.
Yeah, so I waffled there a little bit with my answer, but it's something which I'm really big believer in, because like I said, I took my guide myself to see this guy, and I was only driving a certain way to games, only drinking out of certain cups, because I played all right last week when I drank out of that cup. You know, stupid things like that. At the end of the first meeting I had with him, it was about 2 hours long. I said, are you not going to tell me I can drink out of any cup now? I can drive any way to the game I want? And he's like, no. If you want to go that way, it all became down to like mental preparation, that bit. But it was the best thing I ever did, and really changed my career and took me on to another level, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Joe. Great question. Sam, we've got Tim Darby-Donald on next, and so Tim works at OUFC in the community, and got a question about sort of the criticism that's been laid at footballers' doors at the moment. Tim, you there?
Yeah, I am. Good morning, everybody, and morning, Sam. Thanks for your time today. Yeah, so I have an interim role at Oxford United in the community, supporting the charity there, and there's been a lot of criticism over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks laid at football generally, but very much at the doors of individual players who obviously earn a lot of money on the whole, the major leagues. What's your thought on that? I mean, I see a lot of the stuff that goes on in the community through the charity side, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's justified?
I think there's a bit of everything here. I think players are an easy target. I think because no one really sticks up for the players. If a player speaks out, then they get criticised quite easily. The clubs in general, every club I've been at, a very, very good community aspect. Shrewsbury's no different. I know Oxford from when I was there. They do an awful lot of good work in the community. So that's a general thing. I do think maybe society in general didn't really appreciate how what a big pandemic this was going to be, and the toll it was going to take on everyone, and how much it was going to change our lives. And I think if we hadn't known, I'd like to think that the likes of the Jordan Henderson, what he's set up now, where the players actually put into a pool and then give back, I think that was the best thing that the players could have done, and ideally could have done it earlier. I think there's an awful lot of people, businesses, and you might know more than me, but certainly in football, there are a lot of people with power or behind the scenes are trying to use now this situation for their own good, as opposed to just what's needed. Now, whether that be trying to make players take deferrals, or general staff trying to cut general wages, there's a lot of people trying to do that, which I disagree with, and players are seen as an easy target there. And it's only really the PFA who stick up for players, but ultimately the initiative which Jordan Henderson set up, I think, is the best one. And if they could have just done that earlier, they could have come out with a lot more credit than they have done now. Players do. They don't do enough. They do okay. Some do more than enough. Some don't do anything, and that probably goes through with all walks of business. How many top business people in the country have donated from their own pocket? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Is that okay for you, Tim?
Thank you.
Strategically placed shirt there, Tim. Nice job. Sam, just on that, we've got a question from Tim coming next, but just on that, following on from that point, obviously clubs at the lower levels, their future potential safety is in jeopardy. But I'm sure you listen to a lot of the sports programs where you get a lot of fans on talking about how they're done with football. They're disgusted at how clubs have acted with furloughing and then backtracking on their decisions. Maybe on the point that Tim made about how maybe some players could have done more, and obviously got the high-profile incidents involving a couple of players that haven't really covered themselves in glory. And do you think some of those fans of the higher, the Premier League, the Championship clubs, could be turned off, but towards clubs in the first, second, and lower leagues potentially? So you could see a negative, but maybe something positive coming out of the whole thing.
There may be a very few people like that. I think ultimately, football will end up just going back to normal. I don't think people will lose their affinity with the big clubs because they furloughed and then turned it around or whichever. I think the big clubs jumped on that one very, very quickly, because ultimately the people who run these big clubs are business people, and normally their actions don't get made as public as what furloughing a Tottenham Hotspur does. So they were making a business decision as opposed to a social decision, and obviously rightly so have turned around. I think at that level where clubs do have hundreds of millions, then they need to not take advantage of a situation just to try and save themselves a little bit of money. Hopefully, that people aren't put off coming back to football. And I think in an ideal world, from a selfish point of view, Shrewsbury do that much good in the community where they put things on in the community which otherwise, people wouldn't get the opportunity to play sports and etc. is a fantastic thing. So hopefully that brings people together, because we get an average of 6,000. If that average becomes 7,000, I know it's quite a big jump, but it makes a huge difference to the club in general and its welfare going forward. And we've been run self-sustainably ever since the chairman's been in charge. Really, he's got to the point now where we have some backup funds, but we're using these now to make sure our long-term future is secure. I think there's a lot of clubs who have overspent, like any business, for chasing success, and they're the ones that will be struggling. Not now, because they've all been forward-loaded a load of money, but it won't be now. It'll be in 3, 4, 5 months' time if they're still not getting any income coming back in.
Brilliant, thanks, Sam. We've got Huddersfield Town fan Tim Wraith.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask that. Is Huddersfield the best team you've ever played against, do you think, first of all?
They were up there, not quite the best, but they were up there.
And do you think they'll get into the Premier League soon? Back to the Premier League, yeah?
Oh, Tim, have you been drinking again? Christ, that time has gone.
Maybe not just yet.
Not yet. We've got a good manager. That wasn't my question, actually, but it was more. It was more the about refereeing and officials.
Yes.
Do you think that we watch Oxford as well?
Yeah.
Oxford, Huddersfield, we watch, and we see at Oxford the horrific abuse of the officials quite a lot of the time, really.
From who are we talking now? From players, management?
From everybody, really. Actually, from a big guy, 3 rows in front of us all the time.
Yeah.
But more the official, more the coaches and the. Do you think they deserve a bit more respect? Do you think? So if a player tells the linesman that's an effing awful decision, which will happen probably every game.
Yeah.
Do you think that should be an instant yellow card and they might not do it again, or do we just? Because I also read about some great managers who really support mental well-being, and I often worry about the mental well-being of a guy running the line. What is his mental health? It's a full job, isn't it?
I speak to referees before, during, after every game, obviously, and I tell them, listen, if you make a mistake and I ask a question, so the idea is I speak to the fourth official speaks to the ref. The problem you've got is when referees don't, before the game, there are assessors in the room with them, you go and see them, I'll always give you answers. Then you get out on the pitch, and as a player, as a manager, they just ignore you. And if you make a mistake, do not worry, because I will make mistakes today, as will you. I'll guarantee it now, so don't worry about it. Yes, football's always had this thing of, well, I paid my money, I can go and watch a game and I can abuse the players, I can abuse the manager, the referee. It's everyone's way to release their energy, really, and frustrations from the week. I do think there has to be there are some key things, I think, which can help football. So what bugs me is when players kick a ball away. A foul's been given, opposition player comes in, just kicks the ball away a little bit, or holds onto the ball, runs away with it.
Yeah.
Or if a foul gets given against me, and I touch the ball, or my teammate touches the ball, it's just to be an automatic another 10 yards, another 10 yards. It's a bit like in rugby, things like that. But some referees don't help themselves either with their persona.
No, I think also, though, when a ball goes out and it's obviously the other team's, is it just an automatic, you stick your hand up? I just think that's putting extra pressure on the... you see all the time, don't they? They both put their hands up when obviously sometimes it's just so obvious whose it is. It's not even... Are they sort of trying it on a bit? I suppose it's just enthusiasm, is it?
Sometimes it's trying it on. Sometimes it's you generally do think it's yours.
Well, it might be clearer from us, actually, where we see it.
This week, coming back to what Joe was saying earlier about sportsman's desire, really, is to win at all costs. That's basically what it comes down to. It's all about winning, and by hook or by crook, you try and win every game you can. And as an individual, I was in a battle with my winger or the centre forward, and I'll be doing everything I can, nudging them when the ball isn't there or something. You're just trying to do anything you can to try and get that little advantage, the little upper hand on a player. From a psychological point of view, a lot of forwards, if you get the upper hand on them in the first 10 minutes of the game, that's it then. You've gone for the rest of the game. And it's a bit like that with referees. You try and control a referee and get them on your side. Now, some referees wrongly, and it's wrong. I heard years ago, Alex Ferguson going at a referee to the point, you know, like he would be red in the face and right in the referee's face. And then half an hour later gets given a penalty. And he says, oh, that's why I went at him, so I knew he'd give me a penalty. So that's wrong, because it ends up being, well, if I say, oh, listen, don't worry about it, then I don't get that penalty in half an hour. If I start moaning at you, it can influence decisions. Now, I've always been of the opinion that I treat every referee with respect and be nice to them and talk to them. So I think that will get me further than berating them. Yeah. I can't say it's really worked for me as yet, but I'll stick with that philosophy.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll judge that in 30 years' time, eh, Sam?
Well, yeah, I'm trying not to, because ultimately they don't mean to make mistakes.
Well, it's not in your nature, is it? I mean, you're a nice lad generally, aren't you? So it's not in your nature to be an Alex Ferguson, is it?
I do try.
Well, yeah. We've got a couple of choice comments from Andre Mariner and Mark Classenberg, which I won't read out to you, Sam, but talking about personas of refs. Dad, you got a question for Sam?
Yeah, Sam, up in your area, Shropshire, Worcestershire, you've just suffered terribly from the floods, etc. And then almost immediately afterwards, you've had COVID-19 to cope with. I mean, your exploits in the FA Cup must have done a lot to lift spirits, but generally, are they recovering from everything? And what is the situation up there?
Yeah, I think everyone's, as a town, it's an idyllic place to live, Shrewsbury, and a very, very nice place. And then with that comes the floods and obviously now with COVID-19. I think it's one which I really want to try and use, and we're talking about football here in business and general life, is really trying to use the football to bring the town back together. So we did achieve it with the FA Cup run, the Liverpool games, home and away, really united everyone. And I've said in the press locally that when we do get back playing, I really want people to come to football and really enjoy. So I need to tweak my style of football a little bit, my brand of football, and make it really exciting. Because ultimately it's an entertainment, and I want people to come and really enjoy coming. I want to win, obviously, as well. So I need to make sure I win games, but can I make it as entertaining as possible and really give some people some belief and a break from the troubles which people are going about. There's people in Shrewsbury who got flooded, can't get back in their house. Now there's no building work going on, and they're living in a sports centre hall, and they have been for a couple of months, and now they're isolating in a sports centre hall because they can't go out, they can't go anywhere. So they're the people that are really, really struggling at this time of year, and this is where the football club is so important to make sure they do everything they can for the local community, like I said, like they do already. But at times like this, you can make such a positive impact in your local surrounding areas.
Is that right, Dad? Is he gone? Yeah, he's gone. Brilliant, Sam. Thanks for that. I think, yeah, the headphones aren't working again. So I don't even know if you heard your answer.
Yeah.
No, you did, Dad. Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sam. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we've got a couple.
Connections.
We've got a couple of questions come in that people want me to ask on their behalf. So if anybody does have a question they'd like to put to Sam, please do say so sooner rather than later, because we wrap up at 12:30. A couple of here we go. Tim Tarby-Darnold. Off you go, Tim.
Sorry. So Sam, I'm as well as being at Oxford, I'm a lifelong Liverpool fan.
Okay.
So I've got to confess that. But so just could you tell us a little bit what it was like to be drawn against them in the FA Cup, and what do you think about the selection strategy that Jurgen followed through that cup?
Firstly, an amazing thing. I'm a Liverpool fan, so as a player growing up playing at Anfield was a real highlight for me, and doing it obviously a few times, and they're the games which you look forward to and remember. Certainly remember. So as a manager now, that was the next best thing, is to plot my wits against Jurgen Klopp. From a footballing perspective, I have no problem with the teams he picked. I could fully understand it as a manager, and I'm not saying I would do the same. We had 20, 30 minutes with him after the game, and he was brilliant. You know, we had a chat, we had a beer, and he was just very, very open and very honest about everything. And as a person, I thought he was very, very good. So listen, I understood it. My frustration was we didn't play well enough in the replay to win the game, which I certainly thought we should have done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I did say to Sam before we started, Tim, that I thought he was one of only 3 managers that's not been defeated by Jurgen Klopp, but it turns out there's about 17. So but obviously you didn't play against him in the
Taking my
replay.
line right away there. There's only 3 or 4.
Well, it was you. What was it? You, Nigel Pearson, Ancelotti.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But that's including Champions League, isn't it? We don't just
Yeah.
don't get into Europe. We've left.
No, you did very well. Brilliant. James White, Swansea fan.
Hi, Rich. How you doing? You all right?
Not too bad.
Nice to hear you talking. Obviously, a Swansea fan. I used to remember you marauding down the right side there. What was it? A couple of questions. What was it like to play in front of the North Bank at Swansea? That was always an interesting place to play. Secondly, I'd be interested to know who's the best manager you've played under. Maybe that's been asked already. If it has been, apologies. But the third question is actually a really interesting one around football and business. There's a guy I know quite well who's getting a lot of traction in the lower leagues called Mark Bowden, who helps players perform on the mental side.
Yeah.
And I'm just intrigued as to why footballers focus so much on the physical, the fitness and the injury elements of things, but doesn't focus on the mental side of the game. Because to me, it seems to me that football, so much of football in terms of, especially when players come back from injuries, is done, and their mental state is so important when it comes to getting success and results. So yeah, those
If I could just jump in there, Sam, to save you repeating yourself, because James, you joined us quite late, and Sam did do quite a big section on that, James. So I'll refer you to the video. And given that we only got a couple of minutes late, maybe if Sam could concentrate on the first 2 questions, is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll whiz through that. The North Bank, I can remember playing for Oxford actually against Swansea. And I came out to do the warm-up before the game, people passing the ball out. And someone passed me the ball and missed me by about 10 yards and rolled it down in front of the old North Bank at the Vetch. I thought, that was a bad pass, that. He's missed me by a long way. So I turned around to run down and get it. And the closer I got to the North Bank, the louder and the louder the abuse got aimed at me before the game. That was my first memory of North Bank. And then obviously when I ended up signing for Swansea, it was brilliant. You know, the North Bank were great, and I still sing the songs now. There were some good songs in my time there, so it was a great atmosphere to play in front of, especially on a Friday night down at the Vetch, which I'm sure you know well about. So that was good. In terms of managers,
Sam, can I just jump in there? Was that the last game that was played at the Vetch was Oxford, was it? Because I remember going to the Vetch field. Wasn't that one of the last games they played?
It was one of the last games, yeah.
And were you playing for Swansea then?
Yes, yeah.
Shrewsbury was actually the last game ever played at the Vetch.
Really? Oh, how ironic.
Well,
My claim to fame is that
Wrexham in the
the last league game at the Vetch. The last league game was at the Vetch.
Yeah, correct.
Joe Hart was in goal.
Yeah.
as a football agent, that was my biggest deal, taking Sam to Swansea. I remember I sent Kenny Jackett a piece of paper with your biog on, Sam, and he called me up and he said, "I like the look. You were at Telford, weren't you?"
Yes.
And that's what clinched it. Obviously, nothing to do with your ability.
There we go. Kenny actually would probably be one of the best managers I played under. We said about there's been a few. I've tried to take a bit off of all of my managers really, but there's an awful lot from Kenny. Still someone I speak to a lot and hold a lot of respect for. I played for him for fully for 3 seasons, and we got promoted in 2 of them and lost in the playoff final on the other one. So naturally, I have a lot of respect for him and what he's done as a manager.
Thank you.
Fantastic, brilliant. Anybody else got any questions? I got one last one really to, well, you sort of answered it really, Sam, about managers that have inspired you. So you said Kenny Jackett. I don't know, there's another couple that you could mention. Yeah,
so there's managers that I've played under, and then also when I stopped playing, I went round to see managers. And you look now at Jurgen Klopp, and it all comes back to, referring back to Joe and obviously what James has asked me then about psychology. The biggest one is now managers who can affect players, who can really entice a player. And basically what I've learned is there's 3 ways to get a player on board, to get their attention. One is money. Naturally, everyone wants to earn as much money as they can. Secondly is time off. Players want to earn money and they want as much time off as possible. And thirdly is to physically improve them as a player, make them a better player, give them, if you listen to me and you work with me and you do this X, Y, and Z, your career will go on and you can become a millionaire. It's so fine in football where you can be in League One on a couple of thousand a week. We can go into the Championship on 10, 20, 30,000 pounds a week, and it changes your life, obviously, forever. They're the 3 things to get a buy-in. And what I try to take out of my managers and coaches is how do you get that buy-in? As I am with you now is how I am with all my players. I'm very open. My office door is literally always open. I've had managers who were very standoffish, and I would be scared to speak to them. I've had one or two who are very open, and I think that's the modern way now. You pick out Southgate with the national team, and that's partly why I'm interested in some people here who are running businesses. How you approach your staff? Are you very dominatarian with them, or are you very much have empathy and try and have a relationship with them and try and get more out of them? I think you do. If I really understand my players and really, how's your girlfriend? How's your wife? You know, is your whatever's going on in their life, try and get them that and get their respect and understanding. And I think you get a lot more out of your players and employees being that way round, as opposed to just being a dictator. Sorry.
Brilliant. Sam, I really appreciate your time. We've got one last question from our man in Huddersfield. I see you've got Dean Whitehead with you. Is he? He's on the playing staff or coaching staff? Is he?
Dino is. No, he's with me on the coaching staff. So me and Dino have been. We joined Oxford when we were about 12.
Yeah.
Actually, he lives 5 minutes up the road, so we've remained close and best friends ever since.
So you're the football equivalent of Ant and Dec, yeah?
There we go. We think we're successful as them now, and then we'll be all right.
Tim, do you want to come in with the last question?
Hey, Sam, from one Sam to another, any advice for my 12-year-old Sam who wants to play professional football up front for Huddersfield Town?
There we go. Well, pick a new club first and foremost is my advice. Secondly,
play at Oxford in the 12s.
Secondly, enjoy it. That is the biggest thing. If you enjoy what you do, you wake up in the morning, doesn't matter what you do, if you're a brickie, if you're a footballer, if you get up and you enjoy what you do, you will do it far better than if you're getting made to it. Now, I got forced to practice, obviously, when I was a kid. Enjoyment, and this was only personal one for me, was my granddad, and Richard will know this, my granddad, I'm right-footed, would make me use my left foot every time I saw him, without shadow of a doubt. I wasn't allowed to touch the ball with my right foot. And then years and years later, I made my Wales debut at left back because I could use my left foot. So I framed the shirt and I gave it to him and said, "This is because of you."
That's what Sam's granddad says to him.
Yeah. And I mean, if I flick the ball up, you just flick it up and you catch it with your right hand. My granddad would make me put the ball back down, flick it up with my left hand and catch it again. And he, to the point he'd come and watch me at Swansea, Oxford, Hull, everywhere. He'd watch the warm-up and I'd get a phone call that night saying, in the warm-up, you kick 12 with your right foot and 3 with your left foot. It'd be 6 and 6.
Similar granddads here, I think.
There we go. Well, he did all right for me, so hopefully your granddad does all right for you as well.
Brilliant question, Tim. Thank you, Sam. Sam Wraith. And thank you, Sam Ricketts. It's honestly been an absolute pleasure. And I think you've made a lot of people's day. And we certainly follow your career with renewed interest. So really appreciate your time. And good luck to you for next season, whenever it may start.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.